Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis. It's time for another edition of Monster Comics Reviews. Let's jump right in. This is for the last week of May, so that would be, what, May 28th or something like that, 2014, I believe. We're going to start right out with Batman issue number 31, Year Zero, the final act. Dun dun dun. It really does feel like we're getting somewhere in this. Any rate, let's start right off with the cover. Hey, a cover I actually like. Haven't been too impressed with most of the Batman Year Zero covers, quite frankly. I do kind of dig this one, though. I like Batman with a bow and a backpack and all that kind of stuff. That's sort of interesting. So, yeah. Back down to our $4 price tag on the book, back to a more normal price, normal page count. In this issue, we find that somebody is going to challenge the Riddler by telling him a riddle. It's Lucius Fox. There's some discussion. Him and Gordon and some of the others are all got their own little secret society kind of going, that they're trying to battle the Riddler and what's going on. But Lucius has decided that he's going to attempt to just throw out a riddle, stump the Riddler, and get them all back on track. Figures he's going to die, but, you know, he's going to give it a shot. Yeah, okay. I enjoyed this issue. You know, Batman shows up being Batman. There's this cool conflict that goes on with, you know, he challenges the Riddler, and the Riddler kind of gets tired of him and dumps him down in a hole. Well, there's supposed to be hyenas or something like that. They're going to eat him up. Well, it's not hyenas. It ends up being lions. Yeah, so he has to fight these lions. And I just gotta say, what is up with Scott Snyder and his obsession with wanting to light animals on fire? You know, in the past, we've had burning horses and things like that. In this, Batman lights up a lion with fire. I actually really like that scene. He's like underneath the car trying to hide from the lions, and he's actually drilling a hole in the gas tank of this car. He's basically getting a big old mouthful of gasoline, and then, you know, fire breathes fire on the lion. That was pretty cool. There's actually some great, I love some of the art in of him wrestling the lion and some of that sort of stuff and whatnot. The one thing that I'm not 100% sold on is in this issue, there's a flashback of Bruce as like a teen. He's in some class where there's some riddle or some question that needs to be answered, and for whatever reason, because he's so quiet or whatever, the teacher decides to force him to answer the question, and you know, the class can't leave until it's answered or something like that. And then at the very end, he answers the question by lighting the answer on the front lawn of the teacher's thing, and it's like this flashback thing. And I'm not sure what the point of that whole flashback was. I don't see how it ties into the story itself. If you've got an understanding of that, go ahead and leave me some comments or make a video or, you know, send me an email or whatever. Let me know. Tweet how you think that ties together, or is this just a little piece that I need to get all the pieces for that to tie together? I don't have a problem with flashbacks, but I want to be able to see the correlation, and I don't see the correlation between the two. So what am I supposed to do with that? But as a whole, I'm still, you know, basically enjoying the 0 year stuff. I'm glad we're rolling down into the finals of it. You know, see what's coming with this whole Riddler thing. Yeah, it really has gone on probably longer than it should. Well, I only say that because I'm having a hard time putting the pieces together, and I shouldn't. I don't think. It seems to be meandering and not have a but not sure that's really what I want to say about it. But I like it, but I can see the criticisms, I guess, is what I want to say. Batman Eternal issue number 8. I believe this is script by John Layman, just looking to make double check, make sure, and art by Gilliam March. First off, I'm a big fan of Gilliam March. I like his artwork, and I like the colorist that works, Moray, that works along with it, that does colors almost all of his stuff. I enjoy the tones that they use for most of the things. He has his own style. Sleepy Reader 666 refers to it as a 90s style. late 80s, early 90s style. I don't see that. And I'm not sure. I need to have further discussions with Damien at some point as to exactly what other artist is that referring to, because I want to track that stuff down, because the once we hit into the 90s is about time I had to take a break from reading comics for a period of time. If there's something out there that looks like that, I might be interested in picking it up, whereas as a whole I'm not that interested in picking up most of the stuff that came through the 90s. I'm enjoying the story. I love we keep touching base with Stephanie Brown to get that part of it. We get some other kind of moving pieces in here. I like this new Lieutenant Bard. I like the fact that he's not going to throw down on Batman. He sees a bigger picture and a bigger problem. He's kind of like a younger Gordon in some sense. It seems to be right now, in the fact that he came to the city to do good, and he wants to do good, even if it's pretty obvious the commissioner is wacko and either on the take or whatever. He's got the wrong vision as to what they should be doing. He's going to do his best that he can with what's there. I think it's a good flowing title. And like I said, as far as how many different things that are going on, I don't find them that confusing because it's a weekly comic. I think we're going to get back to the things so quickly that it's not like we're going to completely forget about them introducing all this stuff. Whereas this is a monthly title, and we only saw one of these once a month. By the time we get back to like the Red Robin thing or more Stephanie Brown stuff or that sort of thing, it could be really confusing and go, I don't remember what's going on. But I don't think that should be the case with as often as this book is coming out. I don't think that's going to be a problem with a weekly book. It can have a different kind of a pace and a different way of storytelling, I think. I think that's one of the advantages to having a weekly comic, to us getting our whistles wetted every week as opposed to once a month. I think you've got more room to do some other stuff. And I really hope, actually, that they explore some more of that. You really technically have a larger page count now because you've got 4 books in a month to tell a monthly story, as opposed to just the one. Or at least to me, that's another way of looking at it. So I doubt we're going to see it. We're going to stick with the same formula largely here as possible. But I was thinking about it more, and maybe it's a discussion I should have in a What the Fugue instead. If you're doing like a weekly comic like this, where you can and figure out how to do it, just all the other stuff I think you could explore. You could quote unquote waste pages on more quiet moments to build something to happen in a weekly comic, I think. And I don't know that we're going to see it here, but just a lot of things. But anyway, I'm still really enjoying Batman Eternal. I'm not upset that I'm getting it. I worry about weekly comics. This is, it's financially a much larger commitment. It's either an extra book, 3 weeks out of the month, or it's 3 less books I get of something else. And I'm kind of in between on that as to how I'm working that out financially. But still really happy with it, still having lots of fun with it. COWL issue 1, very excited to show basically a quote unquote indie book amongst the superheroes, because you don't see a whole lot of that, right? And so very cool to see an indie superhero book. This is issue number 1. Kyle Higgins and Alex Sigel prospectively doing the writing and art on it. Really enjoyed this first issue. This is why I really enjoyed the first issue. COWL, it's this group of superheroes who are part of a union. It's their job. They're getting paid. They've got a contract with the city of Chicago to protect the city of Chicago. The contract is up, and they're in contract negotiations. Also, while they're in this negotiations for a new contract, we see at the very beginning of the book, they basically get rid of arrest, kill the last of this crime syndicate that was in Chicago. So there's no immediate threats, no long-term seeming threats right now out there. So of course that's going to affect negotiations. Do we really need to pay these heroes what we're paying them? Do we need them at all now that this crime syndicate is gone? And there's a lot of behind the curtain mechanics and machinery and political maneuvering that interests me. And it all interests me because me personally, I've been on both sides of unions, being a member and being in management, and so I'm always intrigued by all that. Anyway, I think it's an interesting idea. So I'm intrigued by that. My understanding is that this story was actually Kyle Higgins has a movie of this, like some sort of student film, that sort of a thing. So I did get some questions when I did the roundtable about whether or not this read like a movie script. It doesn't to me. I mean, I can see how you can make a movie out of it, but I thought it read fine. The artwork in it is fabulous. I think it is reminds me of late 80s, early 90s Bill Sikowitz artwork, but cleaner. Whereas Bill Sikowitz didn't really respect proportions. He would draw things in crazy proportions if he wanted to make it stylized. Like he'd make Kingpin just huge so he'd look like a big giant round dinner table, that sort of thing. He'd stretch people's heads out to make things look more dynamic or whatever. This artist doesn't, but it has that same sort of painted kind of a feel to it that just kind of reminds me of a crisper or cleaner Sikowitz kind of a style. But yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested to see what happens next. We got this dilemma as we're rolling into these contract negotiations. The question is as to whether or not there is a whether there is a reason to up the contract. And so I'm gonna be interested. I'm interested to see how they operate. I mean, there's complaints in here about overtime. Am I going to get paid my overtime? Has it been approved? This is double time and a half. That stuff interests me, and I find it kind of amusing and an interesting idea of career superheroes. And I know it's been, I believe it's been addressed before. I can't really name a book offhand. As far as career superheroes to this level, not like, they're kind of super-powered detectives that get hired to do stuff, but at this level, like a city or a state or something like that is paying for them. So I think that's interesting. I think you'd be able to do some really interesting things, I hope, and so I look forward to reading more of those. Another book I'm really enjoying, Ms. Marvel, issue number 4, wonderful cover there. We're still not at this costume, but in this issue we get a lot closer to it. She has decided that she is going to continue to take on the Ms. Marvel moniker that she has kind of had up until this point, but she's no longer making herself look like a scantily clad blonde. She's continuing to look like herself basically now. She's gathered up some bits and pieces that look close to like this costume that's here. Stuff she had kicking around the house as she now attempts to go full-on superhero as she attempts to rescue some friends and find out some information. Great story. Charming character. Very relatable. Relatable to me, even though I am, anywhere far from being a teenage girl. Still just a relatable person, and how she deals with stuff. And just kind of a charming book. Marvel's been doing a pretty good job here the last year or so of at least having one book in their catalog that just kind of hits a charming beat. And right now I think they have a couple, but just a really fun book. Great character, well written, well thought about. Doesn't at any point feel like it's on any sort of a soapbox, but represents a lot of things that, of course, were talked about when this title first came out. It being a female superhero, it being a young superhero, it being a Arab American superhero. All those things are there, and they're all talked about and addressed, but they're talked about and addressed in such a natural, normal sort of a way that, like I said, if there's some subliminal or textual message that's being produced here, it's simply that, oh, look, these things all work and function just fine and seems like everybody else, and yeah, great, it's a book that hits all those beats without having to blatantly tell us that it's those things, and and somehow wreck it and make it heavy in ways that it doesn't need to be. Just a really great, enjoyable a book. The character's great. I love her powers. I love watching her walk around these big, giant, stretched out hands, knocking the tar out of things and whatnot. Just really, really fun. Really great book. And finally this time, I thought I was done talking Forever Evil books, but here's another one that's got that banner across the top of it. Suicide Squad issue number 30. This is the final Suicide Squad issue, which is really weird because none of this is on the cover is in the book. And instead of being a final issue, it's the setup for the new Suicide Squad issue number 1 that's going to be coming out. I mean, the whole thing addresses them kind of dragging Deadshot off to a new secret prison. Sets up a little bit of Black Manta, what Black Manta's going to do now that he's been forgiven from his crimes because of his actions during the Forever Evil stuff, and what's happening with Waller. We get where Waller's at now. Waller takes a huge demotion, basically. Basically, it's put in her place, told that she doesn't have any power, really, or any authority. Now she's solely in charge of Project X, as opposed to being in charge of everything. Charge of being of Bella Grade and all that kind of stuff. She's simply just in charge of her own little group, and it seems to be most politicians know about this thing. And they basically see her as being one of the large screw-ups as to why things happened the way they did. So she's been heavily demoted. So I'll be curious to see. I am going to start picking up Suicide Squad, the new run of it. Curious about some of the villains they put in it. I am interested to see what's going to happen with Waller. How's she going to address the fact that she's been basically neutered. She doesn't have any real power anymore. And see how that all works out. But as far as being a final issue, it just makes no sense that it's a final issue, because really it's issue number 1 for the new Suicide Squad. I mean, it puts things in place for that, and that's really what it does. So yeah, not a bad issue, but like I said, not what would be I would consider a final issue. It's the start of something new. So it being issue 30 is kind of weird. Anyway, that's it for my superhero books this time. Have a great week, everybody, and I'll talk to you later on during the week.